Go ahead, Gretchen. Sure, if you could pull the slide down.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the Napa Community's Wildfire Prevention Forum. We are commemorating National Wildfire Prevention Week. As you all know, this is the 5th year anniversary of the 2017 fires. The Atlas, Tubbs, and the Nuns fires really impacted Napa. And not soon after, 2 years ago in 2020, we were again hit by two major conflagrations, the glass and the lightning fires. In fact, since 2017, over 60% of Napa County acreage has burned. All of these fires, fueled by drought and heavy fuel loads in our stressed forests, really impacted our residents and our economy. In 2017, a group of concerned citizens came forward and banded together and said that they wanted to do something about this problem. The residents reconstituted the board of Napa Firewise, which is a long-term nonprofit here in Napa Valley that you may know, associated with some fire safe councils and the chipping program. But they decided to take a new approach, and they got funding together as an all-volunteer board of 13 people and hired a consultant and led a stakeholder community-wide effort to come up with a plan for wildfire preparedness that would reduce the risk and impacts of wildfires throughout Napa County. The Board of Supervisors in Napa County adopted this plan that we call the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, CWPP. It's a mouthful. It's called the plan. And the Board of Supervisors adopted that in April 2021. And not soon after, they hired me as the inaugural executive director. I'm Gretchen Hayes. Nice to meet you. Since then, we've added 7 additional staff in the last 18 months as we have been executing this plan. Once the plan was passed and staff was hired, we put our pedal to the metal to raise money, grants, and donations to implement this plan and to keep it alive and adaptive to continue to meet community needs throughout Napa County. Our ultimate goal is to work at every single level with the county, organizations, local neighborhoods, and individuals to build a wildfire resilient Napa County. We want to protect the life and livelihoods for a sustainable future here in Napa. We're striving to be fire adapted, like the vegetation that has grown here for centuries, that has been used to burning, but not being destroyed on average once every 10 years. Those historic fires never burned as hot as the 2017, 2018, 2020 fires. Those were unprecedented in history, mostly due to a century of fire suppression, fire fuel load buildup, and this historic drought and tinder dry conditions. It was a natural disaster of unprecedented scale. Now, it's important to realize that rain and fire are a natural and necessary element of a healthy ecosystem. But if we get too much or too little, they're destructive. So together we need to find a way to seek balance. Internally, I've struggled with the idea of climate change and carbon capture and how, if we're capturing carbon, we should be planting trees, not taking them out. The key thing is to make sure we plant trees and don't let them go up in smoke and release all that carbon. We're seeking a balance. So like I said, we cannot prevent or eliminate wildfires, but we can take measures to make them less deadly and less destructive. I've been told by firefighters throughout Napa County that if we change the fuels, we change the fire. We've got to keep it on the forest floor. We've got to keep it away from homes. We have to make them less hot. and less damaging and less destructive. We are doing that by enacting our plan, which is mostly fire fuel reduction, community outreach and education for emergency preparedness, and working with our partners to share the responsibility to do this at every scale. Our organization, Napa Firewise, is an umbrella organization for 20 fire safe councils that exist today and may end up being up to 31 to represent every resident in Napa County. We invite you to get involved, to go to our website for more resources, and to join your fire safe council. I am very pleased to introduce you to my staff and my board members and our affiliates at CAL FIRE as they lead you through an introduction to our efforts here at Napa Firewise. Welcome and enjoy.
Thanks so much, Gretchen. Hi, everyone. We're delighted you could join us today. And it's so wonderful to see everybody's faces on these screens and get to talk to you about what we've been up to. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Chief J.C. Greenberg. So J.C., you want to talk to us about current state of wildfire in Napa County?
I sure can. Thank you so much, Elaine. Get there, screen share. So J.C. Greenberg, I'm a battalion chief here at Napa County Fire and CAL FIRE. I'm also a board of director with Napa Firewise. A lot of my work is a liaison support of building these blueprint plans of fuels reductions, working with homeowners, bringing this resiliency through Napa Firewise and the fire departments to our community here locally. What I'm going to start off is talk about really where we are at this fire season, because I think as a lot of you have recognized, it may look a little bit different than the past few years, but what are those numbers? And I'll start off with 2021. We had 2.5 million acres burned throughout the state of California, and that's across all lands. Currently in 2022, we're sitting at 366,000 acres across California. So a drastic difference of where we were last year, where we are today. And I'll kind of highlight, what are some of those factors. Here in Napa County, we've had one large fire of 500 acres, and that was back in May 31st down in the Soda Canyon region of Napa County. So, what is this? What is the difference between last year and this year? And a lot of this is the outlook of the weather. We are still very dry here in Napa County. The drought conditions are very persistent. But the one common thing that has happened over the past 5 years is that the vegetation still remains critically dry and ready to burn. So we are by no means in a safer place this year than we are last year. But a lot of this comes down to the favorable weather that we've had. And a lot of that portrays to the absence of the dry north winds. So if you think about the last few years, if you see the backdrop on my screen of the high fire dangers, we introduced those flags in Napa County, and it seems like they were up every single week because of the north winds blowing. And fortunately, this year we've not experienced that, and we hope that we do make it to the rainy season without these north winds surfacing. But I think the biggest thing that I want to reiterate here is that we're in that shoulder season of the fall where it's historically been very destructive. Statewide, most of the destructive fires across the large acreages, the homes that have burned. This is the time of year when the fuels are the driest. This is the time of the year as the pressure systems change that it brings in these north winds. So by no means are we're in the clear, but we need to be heightened and ready for this. Let's talk a little bit about the resources. So what do we have here locally? Here over in Sonoma Lake, Napa, we have 31 engines, we have 6 dozers, we have 4 hand crews, we have our 9 Napa County volunteer stations that are here to support us. Over at our Sonoma Air Attack Base, we have fixed wing aircraft that drop the retardant from the airplanes. We have our Boggs Mountain helicopter that you see on the screen here. So this was a new upgrade to CAL FIRE, going from the Huey model to the Firehawk. So an increased amount of water can be dropped. Going from 328 gallons to this helicopter carries up to a max of 1,000. Also locally in Napa County and here in Sonoma Lake, Napa, we're fortunate enough to have some contracted helicopters. that we have until the end of fire season. One's located over in the Napa airport and the other one's up out of Windsor at our air attack base. So these are resources here that are to help us to prepare for this end of fire season and until the rain shows up. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the defensible space sections here in Napa County. So we have a defensible space program where I'm sure you've seen Eric Hernandez and some of his members come around, inspect your homes. They leave you some paperwork behind that shows, what you can improve on or what needs to be done to meet the county ordinance here. But this is really where the homeowners need to come into play. It's your job as residents to protect your homes. And by protecting them, you're removing the fuels around there. You're creating an ember-resistant construction around your home so that when wildfires start, that the firefighters have a chance to defend. So this is a dual effort here where the residents protect your homes, which gives the firefighters a chance to actually defend. Also in Napa County, we've continued with our Napa County Fire Free Chipping Program, and this is surely to help you with your defensible space. So you clear all this vegetation and you take a look at these piles and you're like, what do I do to get rid of them? This program's here to come to your residents, chip this for free, and help support this mission. We're all in this together, and this program is readily available. We'll be running this program to at least December 2nd, or depending on the weather, depending on if it gets wet, we can't bring the chippers out, but we're here to support you. You can sign up with the website that you see on the screen there, and we encourage you. The wait list is ready for about 1 to 2 weeks, and we'll help you take care of all your vegetation that you get clear. The last thing I'm going to close out here is that with these wildfire problems, that it takes a village to solve these problems. What are we doing here in Napa County? Napa Firewise is completing fuel reduction projects, public education, all for the preparedness of the community here. Our Napa County Board of Supervisors, they adopted the Napa County-wide Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And not only did they adopt it, they brought a solution to get us started. They funded the seed money of nearly $12 million for us to get work started on the ground right away of fuel reduction. So a true investment into the community from our Board of Supervisors. Statewide with CAL FIRE, we've upgraded our aviation fleet of helicopters. In the budget, we have added positions for firefighters to bolster our response. Here in Napa County, we have the contracted helicopters to aid in responses. So it takes this multifaceted approach to create resiliency. But the key component here is the public creating your defensible space around your homes. And we as a community must maintain an adaptive posture to living with these wildfires. They're not going away. We need to be prepared for these problems, have our plan, and create solutions before these wildfires reach Napa County again. So thank you everyone for joining, and I'll be around later if there's any questions that come up in the chat.
Okay. Thanks, JC. We really appreciate your time and sharing that with us. I want to let you guys know there's a Q&A. I didn't see this till just now. There's a Q&A icon at the bottom of the page. There's a little red number 1 in it right now for the first question we have. And we'll be getting to these questions. Probably a lot of them we might just type. JC, actually, this might be a good question. If you have a quick second to answer, how's prescribed burning being fit? Is that a good moment for you to answer that question?
Yeah, sure can. I'll tie in and then we'll let the other panelists go.
And then we'll move on.
Yeah, so in Napa Firewise, we work with PBAs, prescribed burn associations. We're working with large landowners to implement these programs, and not only prescribed burning, but really large landscape pile burning. So where you do understory clearing and piling it up, that is a very productive method of removing the fuels. And actually, aside from that, are the burn boxes that people are using. That reduces the emissions, and you're able to burn longer in the season before fire season starts.
Cool. Thanks, JC, for that clarification on that. Next, we have Joe Nordlinger, who's our VP and on the board and in charge of grants and all kinds of good stuff. Take it away, Joe.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you all joining us for this webinar to learn a little bit about the organization. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Napa Communities Firewise Foundation's current evolution of our thinking programmatically. So the way we're looking at fire response and our overall strategy is currently kind of wrapped up in something called WRAP, Napa County Wildfire Resilience Action Program. And I'll talk a little bit about the evolution of that, where we originally sort of thought about how to build our overall fuel reduction programs, et cetera, and how we've expanded it over time. As Elaine said, my background is I've been in this fire resiliency space for about 8 years. I'm a volunteer firefighter with Dry Creek Station 16. I run the Mount Veeder Fire Safe Council, and I'm the vice president of Napa Firewise. And one of the main committees that I focus on is grants. And so we're out there looking for the money to fund a lot of really big projects. So the current thinking is sort of encapsulated in this Wildfire Resilience Action Program. Basically, in cooperation with a lot of our partners, we've gone through and really updated all of our project portfolio. We've worked closely with fire safe councils, with agencies that we partner with, and we've identified a total portfolio of about 200 plus projects that will require the better part of $250 million. This is a longer term view. So when we did our original countywide community wildfire protection plan, we had about $45 million, and it was primarily focused on corridors. We're now looking at everything from additional ridge tops, how to basically reduce fuel within compartments that are created by those corridors, and also figuring out how to substantially expand resources that are available to help individual homeowners do fire hardening in defensible space. And one of our speakers, Piper, will dig into that a little bit later on. So as I mentioned, initially we had the countywide community wildfire protection plan that had a $45 million price tag, was focused on some specific corridors for evacuation, access, and egress. We've basically expanded that to about $250 million with about 200 plus projects around the county, and it's a 10-year sort of a long-range plan. The funding sources that we chase after for that include the county, which are important funds because they basically are match funds that we can use to unlock a lot of federal and other state money. So the fact that the county stepped up, as JC mentioned, in a really material way and came up with millions of dollars for this effort was critical, and they've signaled a commitment long-term to helping with that. FEMA is a big source of grants. There's two main programs. I'm not going to get into all the acronyms, but we currently have two large FEMA grants that we're pursuing that we think we have a good chance at receiving. And those are tens of millions of dollars that we have 3+ years to spend. Wouldn't likely come online until 2023, 2024. CAL FIRE continues to be a major source of funds for us. There's two main programs there that we pursue, and they've funded historically a lot of our work and are signaling that they'll continue to fund that work. Private donations are important. Then there's a whole sort of range of monies from PG&E, California Fire Safe Council, Bureau of Land Management, et cetera. So we have an active portfolio of grants that we're always evaluating. They're seasonal. There's a cycle associated with them, and our grant committee is constantly figuring out how to leverage and maximize those programs. I want to take a minute here to just kind of walk you through some of this information that's in the Napa County Wildfire Resilience Action Program, NCWRAP, is highlighted on our website. I'm hoping that if I click this link, it'll take us to the site and you'll be able to see it. Is that sharing, or do I need to share a new screen? Hopefully you can see the Wildfire Resilience Action Program. It's articulated here on the site.
It's not, Joe.
It's not? Okay, let me just share that then really quickly here. So I encourage everybody to take the time to go spend a little bit of time on our website, the Napa NCFF, napafirewise.org website. We've got a lot of information here that articulates what the County Wildfire Resilience Action Program is and what it's focused on. I want to take you to one other resource here, which is our CWPP Hub site. This is a really, really important site. There's a ton of information here. And basically, if you as an individual want to learn what our project portfolio looks like, if you want to learn about fire history in your area, if you want to understand major projects in your area, go to this section of our website. It's the base hub map. It is the foundation of our countywide CWPP. There's some great resources there. me just go back here to this and I'll wrap up so we can keep going. I just want to emphasize what others have talked about, which is the fact that our public outreach strategy is critical to our success. This is about individuals leading by example. If you have a home in the WUI, do everything that you can to harden it and improve your defensible space. Talk to your neighbors. The whole basis of the Fire Safe Council framework is about neighbors talking to neighbors and getting folks together, thinking about hosting a community organization, get involved with the Fire Safe Councils. Our ability to do any of the things that we do is highly dependent on a very engaged public in all of our efforts. And so we encourage you to do that outreach, get involved with the Fire Safe Council, and learn more about the projects that we're doing. If you have any questions, I'm happy to field them at the end here. All right.
Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it. And next, I want to introduce Mike Wilson, who's our Director of Vegetation Management. So Mike is the guy that gets out there and makes sure all this old dead stuff and overgrown stuff gets pulled out and doesn't catch on fire. So, Mike.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Again, yes, thank you, Elaine, and everybody for joining us here this evening. Again, Mike Wilson, I did a full career, 32 years with CAL FIRE. Had a lot of great experiences in that, but two of my favorite accomplishments were being a part of being able to start the Napa chipping program, the free chipping program that we've all gotten used to over the years, and then helping to be able to start with a core group of folks, Napa Firewise, back in 2006. So since then, I've gone about my career, then went ahead and retired, and then came back full circle, and I'm now proud and able to be working full time. I say that I'm trying to turn the funding into wood chips, basically. So that's what we're going to look at tonight. We'll go through some example photos. The photo you're seeing on the screen here is that Sanitarium Road during the glass fire. This photo was taken by one of our folks who works with us here in Napa Firewise, Steve Burgess, also a volunteer firefighter with Deer Park Station with Napa County Fire. I show you this because our biggest priority is really getting people out and getting firefighters in during an incident. This road, there's a lot of heat coming up on it, but our goal on our roadside fuel reduction projects, and I'll talk about the kind of 3 or 4 different types of projects, is to minimize that heat, minimize the fire effects along there. So, and we'll talk about flame lengths and fuel heights, and we'll go deep into it here. So here's the team. You got Jeff Enos is on the right here. Ken Pridmore, both retired battalion chiefs in the fire service. Steve Burgess, who I just mentioned, is also. These 3 folks who work for me as our project planners and monitors. We're kind of the core group who plan and work a lot with Chief Greenberg and CAL FIRE and Napa County Fire to prioritize the CWPP projects and what's funded and what's the priorities in those funded projects. So roadside buffer projects, basically there's 2 types. Roadside right-of-way work, excuse me, is within the county right-of-way. That's not very long. Normally that's 30 feet to 28 to 30 feet off the center line of the county road. Even though, that might end up to be 10 to 18 feet out, that makes a difference. I mean, the county code for your driveway in the high fire threat area is that you do 10 feet of fuel reduction along your driveway. And that's, codes are written to make a difference. And so it actually does make a difference. Roadside expanded work is what we have an example of here. That's going beyond the right of way. So that's even better, obviously. That now turns this road into much safer to navigate during a fire. And it also gives it a chance to be able to stop a fire. Nothing's going to stop the wind-blown fires that we saw in 17 and 18 until they all fires slow down, and obviously all fires go out. So once they do, and they hit these roads, or we have fires on the average weather day, these roads can act as fuel breaks. So that's why we put so much effort into them, and for life safety and firefighter safety. So moving on here, that last one was Atlas Peak. This one's another example of Atlas. We were able to do that this last year, both right away and expanded. Circle Oaks as a community up Monticello Road, Highway 121 up towards Berryessa, large amount of homes within the wildland. This is one of their external roads. They weren't able to do a lot along this road because there's Capel Creek, I believe, running at the base of this. We're able to develop relationships with the fire safety councils and agencies such as Fish and Wildlife, where we were able to go in here and not just cut down the grass, but if you look out forward, reduce down these little ladder fuels and get just these, the low fuels and the oaks that aren't going to be as affected by fire. And we're able to make that difference. And along this strip, we were able to, get down pretty close to the creek. We worked with, like I said, Fish and Wildlife to write up a prescription that was good for the creek, habitat, as well as, making it more fire safe. So those are the kind of things we do. Here's another road example up along on Old Lolly Toll Road, which is adjacent to Highway 29 up on Mount St. Helena. This little county road is the main Highway 29, and a lot of times when that corridor is affected by fire or large vehicle accident, hazmat, or what have you. So, we work a lot with our county roads crews and supervisors to communicate with them and leverage what they can do versus what we can do, and just it's a good working relationship. Moving over to Con Valley Road, moving out towards the north end of Lake Hennessy. We've just finished a project there. Same kind of thing, just reducing those fuels. Once in a while, you have a larger piece of fuel like that. It's not going to make as much of a difference as this brush. However, I believe that log was removed. Green Valley Road at the end of Con Valley, that was another area down the bottom of the base of that. We were able to do some clearing. And this is a combination, like Joe talked about, of all these grant funnels. Basically, it's Napa County, CAL FIRE, and then Senator Dodd did a holiday fundraising party that allowed the benefits went to Fire Safe Council projects, and they were wonderful. And this is a good example of one there. Diamond Mountain Road. This is a heavier timbered area that took a lot of large portions of Diamond Mountain Road, took a lot of damage from the glass fire. So therefore, we're keeping the species that are the healthiest, the most natural, in this case being redwoods, normally oaks. We don't cut down a lot of trees. I can tell you that right now. Normally it's dead or dying, or it's the higher flammability trees like bays, bay laurels, and gray pines and such that are very fire prone. This is an example along Spring Street out on the west side of St. Helena. Just a lot of fuel built up, very close to the roadway. And this is a creek down below here, but we were able to, clear some of that vegetation off to the edge, as well as everything you're going to need to drive by getting out of there. So community and ridgetop fuel breaks, that's another type. This is an example of various estates. There's about just under 200 homes out there in northern Napa County. And after this, we'll take a look at the map and see where a lot of these projects are. I just want to give you a feel for what they look like, and then we'll zoom around the county and take a look. So this is up around various estates. This is a great project on Napa open space land. Also Dodd funded project, where the Fire Safe Council, helped us design this. We worked with our vendors to get some bids, and went ahead and put in a nice fuel break. It's hard to see through here, but all the homes are scattered down throughout here. Piper Cole, who's our board member and will be speaking next, did a wonderful project in here of using grant money to offset defensible space costs right around the homes. So about 130 of them were treated within the project or within the community. So moving on here, various estates again. This is a CAL FIRE Firefighter 1 hand crew that's moving along through this slope, and these are all burn piles and just reducing down this whole swath of fuel. So come the first rains, when it's safe to do so, we'll get those burned and have a good fuel break for the homes that stretch all through here. As another example of kind of a perimeter fuel break. Moving over to Berryessa Highlands at the south end of Lake Berryessa, we have put in recently, within the last 2 months, almost 3 miles of ridgetop fuel breaks that dozers put in during the recent fires. So we're able to, have all those mapped and focus on where the most critical ones are to put funds back into and maintain those. So instead of just doing that through the brush or trees, we're now going through and reducing these fuels, which means in this case, there's not a lot of brush and ground fuels in these two pictures, this picture, but we'll raise all these limbs up. So where when fire comes through here, it's just a grass fire and it can bump into this 20-foot wide, basically a, good fuel break and have a good chance of stopping fire. Or we'll see in these next few pictures where aircraft can come along and with air tankers drop the red retardant and reinforce these lines even more. Here's another example where there is a bunch of fuel built up on our recently installed dozer line, reinstalled dozer line. So we're going through there now and reducing all this with another vendor. That's a very large project of about 10 miles of both dirt and unpaved and paved roads up and around the Berryessa Highlands area. Here's a good example of Circle Oaks we talked about earlier. There's a dense amount of homes up there, so this is part of their fuel perimeter fuel break. They do a lot of good work interior. We did some in there. They, as a fire safety council and a homeowners association, do a wonderful job of making sure the homeowners are taking care of their defensible space. So it takes that partnership, like you'll hear time and time again tonight, with our fire safe councils and our homeowners all doing their parts. This is a good example of where an aircraft can come along. If you put a tanker load of retardant in on this ridge, half the retardant is not going to reach the ground. It's going to get hung up in the canopy or in all this brush. So when you have something thinned out like this, and then we're going to be sharing this data with CAL FIRE to make sure they know where the most recent fuel breaks are, because a lot of these have a lot of shaded trees over them, and you might not be able to see it from the air, but we'll get that in their maps and have done so in the past. So therefore, back to Con Valley, and then forest restoration. That's kind of I don't want to say the last priority, but it's just as important. It's just that we have to prioritize life, property, and environment. So therefore we hit the roads to protect life. We hit community field breaks around to protect property and homes. And then the forest restoration is where you have areas of unburned or burned areas that have just a very unhealthy amount, like Gretchen said. This is 100 years of fire suppression exclusion, and a lot of intrusion into the wildland with people moving out into the wildland, to where it's difficult to get those prescribed fires to the level we need them to be. So we have to go strategically and mechanically thin the forest, reduce down this amount of brush. There's still probably an unnatural amount of trees per acre right in here, but it's a process. It's a phased approach. So this is up in the Pacific Union College up in Angwin, doing some wonderful work. Also Mike Palladini with the Napa Land Trust. If anyone is able to get down into Linda Falls Terrace area, he's done about 100 acres, and we're going to go through and do even more on a fuel break between two vineyards, and between the both of us with federal funding and our local funding, we'll have almost a transformed 100 acres of forest that this or that example could be, you could put fire on the ground in here and do a low intensity burn, which is planned up in the Pacific Union College. So you go from this to maybe understory burning, and if you get out in the grasslands and brush regrowth, you utilize grazing and that type of stuff to maintain these fuel breaks, because they're not worth putting in unless we can maintain them. So I'm going to switch over now to the map, and we'll kind of walk around the county and see what we have for, this is the fire history, which is goes to Gretchen's point of, well, this is all the fire history reaching back to the 1800s. So it's probably well over 60%, but you have swaths obviously through the valley floor that, that haven't burned. And, we can never say never anymore after obviously the glass fire that we saw spot and, through the valley and come across to the other side on the Spring Mountain side. So, nowhere is untouchable, but this is our picture of what we have to look at. And obviously this isn't just us, it's surrounding us. And we just have to, we got to prepare for it. And I think this county is turning the corner on doing that. So let's look at all of our current CWPP projects. So these would be all the fuel projects that in 2020 and since then we've pulled together. We're on the verge of updating this again. It'll be well, it's more expanded. This is inputs from all the fire safe councils, the large land management folks, and a lot of it is roadways. These are all the roads that we need to treat, with the exception of some of these valley ones. But so therefore that gives you a kind of a picture of where we need to work. Mostly obviously off the valley floor up in the high fire threat lands. We can leave both those layers on, but we for a lot of these funds you got to do environmental clearance. We're all used to that this day and age, and so we are, this is an example of a bunch of projects that are either done with or moving through the CEQA, NEPA, which is National Environmental Protection, or the state one is the CEQA. And so we put a lot of work and money into getting this done. And then once that's done, we can move on to actually implementing the projects. A lot of these you'll see where they might not have needed environmental clearance. A lot of them are roadside clearing. That's able to be done within the county roads, have a maintenance right away. So it's wonderful. When we go beyond that, then we'll clear it with a environmental document. So this is what we've done so far. This is Monticello Road, Highway 121. This is Atlas Peak, Soda Canyon, Dry Creek Road. And then so this is, Deer Park Road, Howe Mountain, Ink Grade, Valley. Those are all good examples of roadside. We have community fuel breaks. It might be a little difficult to see, but this is, around Silverado. There's a very small one, but this protects 15 homes in the little fire safe council of Hagen Oaks, which has been very active and doing great things. Berryessa Highlands is down at the south end of the lake here. All this area has been cleared for CEQA, and we're moving in and we'll do future projects through here, but we've in the last few months been able to do all those roads I talked about, the dozer lines around the ridges, and moving up to Berryessa Estates. That's an example of the community fuel breaks that you saw the photos of. And then of course Angwin's kind of our, it's a very, very highly fire hazard area. It's got a lot of drought-induced beetle kill in the trees that we've all learned about lately. And the county's it's declared emergency on that. It's also got topography, which steep slopes and heavy timber and brush on both sides of it, from all sides of it. And, so there's a lot going on up there. That's what we base it on is the priority when it comes to the science and the professional direction from our fire professionals. So with that, there's one more set of photos I wanted to show you. This is what was the old fire on Soda Canyon Road in May. So we had done treatment along Soda Canyon Road. Fire was burning north and south, but the fire bumped on this flank down to the county road. And talking to JC and others who were on the fire, they didn't have to worry about prepping this road and worry about this fire hitting the road because we'd already treated it. We'd removed brush and limbed up trees. Motorists were able to evacuate out of here quicker, or easier and safer, and firefighters had more confidence in letting it come down to bump the road. This is a good example of roadside fuel break, plus our features such as vineyard blocks that do act as a change in the fuel. On a fire like this, it's not blowing and going from a wind-driven fire. So it's a good example of how it can all come together. And with that, I'll leave you and kick it back over to Elaine.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. We have a little bit of time now. We have Piper Cole, who is the co-lead of the Calistoga Fire Safe Council and has been doing some really interesting, innovative projects that we've been kicking off. So Piper, you want to go for it?
Now I'll actually try and talk with the mute off. Okay, thanks Elaine, and thanks everybody for sticking with this and trying to learn more. And I don't know about you, but I always feel smarter when I listen to Mike Wilson. He is just a font of information. Anyway, Mike's projects are really where the rubber meets the road. These are where the rubber meets the home. So these are a couple of model programs that we've been able to get funding for and test out so that with a little bit of luck and a lot of funding, we can roll these out throughout the rest of the county. So the first one is the Defensible Space Cost Sharing Project, and the second one is Reflect to Protect. We'll go through each one. So as you've heard, I think through countless speakers, fire really requires three things. It requires oxygen. We're not going to be able to get rid of the oxygen. It requires heat. We have no control over that. And it requires fuel. Fuel is the one thing that we can change. And defensible space is controlling the fuel around your home. So why is it important? Not only are you protecting your home with defensible space, but you're protecting your community and you're protecting the wildland. And you're also providing a space where firefighters can come and station themselves so that they can fight the fire. So it's really important on a number of different levels. And good defensible space doesn't have to look like a moonscape. I know some people are concerned that defensible space means clearing everything from your land. It doesn't. It means getting rid of a lot of the excess brush. It means limbing up trees. It means getting rid of the highly flammable plants, but you can still look like a very nice area and still have good defensible space. So when you talk about defensible space, there are a number of zones moving out from your home. The first is zone 0. This is the first 5 feet from your home. And new regulations are going into effect at the first of the year that is going to require that this be an ember-free zone. So you've got to pay particular attention to this area. And these slides will be made available to you. I'm not going to go through all of the things that you can do in each of the zones, but understand that this is where the homeowner really needs to get involved, get educated, and get active, and our programs will provide some help for that. Zone 1 is the first 30 feet around your home. And there are various things that you do in that zone as well, limbing up trees, getting rid of a lot of the brush. Zone 2 is the area from 30 feet out to 100 feet. And there are various things, and each zone has its own particular things that you need to do. But the goal is to make your home more defensible and make your community safer. Zone 3 is the access to your home. So the areas around the access to your home that may be outside of your 100-foot area, but it's important. If you have a long driveway, you want to make sure that you can get out of it and that firefighters can get in. And zone 4 is the community. This is part of what Mike was talking about in the fuel breaks and other areas to make sure that your community is safer. So the Defensible Space cost sharing program provides a number of different aspects. First of all, there's a self-assessment test that you can take. This educates you about defensible space and has you applying it to your home in the area around your home. So you answer a number of questions, and it may cause you to look at your home and the area around your home in a new way. This then turns into your application to apply for the program. Once you've been accepted into the program, you then hire a contractor and have the work done that you had proposed in your application. Once that work is done, you submit a verification to Napa Firewise, and you submit photos, both before and after photos. At that point, we may have a defensible space inspector come out to take a look at the work. And if the work has been done and has been done to standard, then we will reimburse you 50% of the amount that you spent on approved work up to $2,000 a property. So we look at this as there are sticks out there. Some of the regulations we consider sticks. This we consider a carrot to both incent you to do this work because it helps you and it helps the community and it helps the firefighters, and also some money to enable you to do that. Right now, we've done this model project in Calistoga and St. Helena, but we're hoping to roll this out through the rest of Napa County in the high and very high severity zones. So stay tuned. You'll learn about that. The other program we call Reflect to Protect. And these are the address signs. We call them address signs to save lives. These are the reflective address signs that first responders tell us really help them find homes, both through smoke, in fire, and in an emergency in the dark. And the firefighters tell us if they can't find you, they can't save you. So it's really important that they find you. The photo on the left is what we see all throughout the valley. You know, they're pretty, they're quirky, they're fun, but you can't always see them. And what we're moving to are ones that either are much more descriptive or have badges that are more descriptive, but are much more visible. And they really can be seen from a great distance and provide information. The new ones that we're using in this program show a fire hydrant, some water source, a swimming pool or pond, and room for a fire truck to turn around. In addition, we've also put evacuation zones on. As you may know, Napa County has been divided into evacuation zones. And when there are fires, Nixle will tell you not to evacuate from Jefferson Street where it intersects with Soskell, where it does this, where it does that, but to evacuate zone X. Know your evacuation zone so that you know when you've got to get out of town. So the goals of the program are to make homes more visible, to make addresses more visible so that they can be found, to provide information to first responders so that they know what resources are up that driveway. Are they going to be able to get water? Are they going to be able to turn around and get out of the driveway? If they know they can, they're more likely to go up there. And for the homeowner to be able to really know what your evacuation zone is. So there are a number of steps to this program. We've done the first one with a wonderful grant from Bank of the West and the participation of their employees as volunteers. But the key steps in any of these programs are funding. How are you going to pay for the signs? Marketing. How are you going to get the program out there so that people participate? How are you going to order and set up your program, your logistics, and how are you going to distribute the signs? So we don't need to go through each of these, but there are a number of different ways that you can approach each of these key aspects. And we're writing up a guide that will help with doing that. And what we're hoping is that these will be programs that will be done either on a fire safe council level or on a neighborhood level, but that people take this on and make this a project to make their area more visible and therefore more safe. And these signs do save lives. It's really an important thing to do. So I'm just wanted to give you a video of the program that we did with the volunteers from Bank of the West. We had 2 installation days, a total of 28 volunteers, 14 teams on each of the installation days. So they all gathered to get their material. We provided the tools to do this, and we provided spreadsheets for where they would go and install the signs. And then as a 2-person team with instructions about making sure that everything was level, they installed these signs and made the neighborhood much safer. And I think had a lot of fun doing it too. So it's a small thing, but it makes a big difference. And you can see how little visibility there was with the old signs and how much more visibility there is with the new signs. And with our model program, we installed almost 600 signs. So it's a start, and we hope to go much further throughout the county.
Cool.
So thank you. And I'll be around for questions.
Great. Lisa Pelosi has a few. I'll let you take a look at that. Super. Thanks, Piper. And now it's Sherry Gardner, who's our Director of Wildfire Preparedness and on staff at NCFF. She's going to talk to us about the community and what Fire Safe Council is and all about our FSCs. Go for it. Sherry, you're on mute.
Hi, guys. Thanks for hanging on to the end here. And just to let you know, we're coming up on 7 o'clock. I'm going to try to go over this pretty quickly, but the panel will stay on for Q&A afterwards too, if you'd like to stay on for a little bit longer at the end. And I'm going to try to share my screen. There we go. All right. So you've been hearing a lot about a lot of different things for what we do with Napa Community Firewise Foundation and some of the things you can do yourself that Piper just went over as part of your community to make your community safer. And I'm going to talk about how you can all get involved in this too. So what I would strongly encourage is for you to, if you're not already a member, join your local Fire Safe Council. It's free. You can go on our website and look up your local Fire Safe Council, or just enter your information and get signed right up. Fire Safe Councils are community-based grassroots groups who take on a defined area, their neighborhoods, and try to create a more fire-adapted, fire-resilient community, more safety for their homes, their neighborhoods, and just generally a better situation. So what is a Fire Safe Council? There we go. Fire Safe Councils operate under the wing of Napa Community Firewise Foundation, or Napa Firewise. We are the nonprofit kind of umbrella for the local Fire Safe Councils, with the exception of Mount Veeder, who has their own their own 501c3. But that allows fire safe councils, if they don't have to have the 501c3, they have a little more freedom to operate. And we do partner with all the fire safe councils to try to get projects done on the ground. Right now, as Gretchen mentioned, we have 20 fire safe councils. A couple of them are brand shiny new. And in this map, all of the darker orange polygons are fire safe councils throughout the whole Napa County. And the paler peachy colored ones are kind of placeholders for what we hope will be claimed by some local folks to start their own fire safe councils. More to come. And there we go. So benefits for why join a fire safe council, why take the time. These are volunteer organizations or volunteer groups. So there kind of has to be a reason that you do it, but this is an opportunity for you to really engage with your neighborhood and your neighbors to try to craft a safer environment for your families and for yourselves and for your businesses. It's kind of neighborhood by neighborhood, not parcel by parcel. And one of the first steps is to create a community evaluation. So the volunteers that start the Fire Safe Council work together with consultants and staff at Napa Firewise to create an evaluation, a community evaluation or risk assessment, fire risk assessment. And that's a real detailed look at what the risks and opportunities are in your particular neighborhood, very specific to your fire safe council. And then from that, you create a community wildfire protection plan, which is your checklist for projects you can undertake to improve the safety of your community and the safety and health of your forest as well. The CWPP or Community Wildfire Protection Plan allows you to go after funding, and it helps Napa Firewise also help you with funding for grants. If you have defined projects on your list, we can help you pick them off. Let's see, there are tons of other benefits as well. There's a lot of opportunity for education and awareness. You can help neighbors know what they could do to make their homes safer from wildfire, what the regulations are. You can do community fire prevention days and invite Eric from CAL FIRE out to do an assessment for home after home in your neighborhood. You can do chipper days. You can do the Silverado Fire Safe Council put together a whole fire awareness fair, fire resources fair, and had a bunch of vendors come, and it was open to the public, and you can really educate people about what their options are for creating safer homes for themselves and doing work on their properties. Fire Safe Councils can collaborate with each other and work on projects. That works really well. And some of the bigger Fire Safe Councils have specialty kind of neighborhoods that work together in a little bit more of a tighter knit situation to craft their projects and execute them, get things done, and get to know your neighbors. So in case of an emergency, you know who needs help to evacuate. And you also can find out who needs help to do their defensible space. If they're not as able-bodied or a little elderly or lacking of funds and they can't carry out their own defensible space and home hardening, then the Fire Safe Council can kind of band together and help people with grant funding or volunteer labor. And it also provides an opportunity to have your voice at the table. So you can communicate regularly with Napa Firewise and tell us what your concerns are, what you need help with. And we can also share information with you and opportunities for funding and whatever else. It's just a great way to really partner. And you can partner with others too. Like Piper pointed out, partnering with local banks or any other organization or businesses to help build awareness and get this community safer. So that's, whoa. These are a couple photos of some of the Fire Safe Councils doing some work, getting some planning going, building community, and trying to kind of figure out what places they can get things done, whether it's access roads or emergency access or places where they would like to see larger projects undertaken by Napa Firewise, for instance. Opportunities. And another great role for Fire Safe Councils is helping get all those great projects that Mike shared with you executed. So some of the projects we're doing have been drawn to our attention by Fire Safe Councils, and for others, we really rely on the local fire safe councils and the neighborhood folks to share the information, to get landowner agreements, just to help us make people aware of the projects that we're hoping to do and get permission from people to go on their property a little bit to help clear out some of the fire fuel. And so that's super important for us and a good opportunity for people to see things getting done. And then there's volunteers. There are some of the fire safe councils have great volunteer programs, and one of put a little spotlight on Berryessa Estates. They have a group of 15 volunteers who go out, I think every week or at least every month. They work really hard. They put in 992 volunteer hours as a team so far this year. They go out with chainsaws. They have one of the volunteers even bought their own chipper, so they can chip piles and burn them when the timing is appropriate for that. They've cleared 8 acres of brush around the homes out in Berryessa Estates already. So those are things that you can just keep doing, working away at, and it's really making a big difference and building community at the same time. And I would say that you may not like all of your neighbors, but getting together around fire safety and making your community safer is something that pretty much everyone can agree on. So we got some common ground, and that lists this little diagram just lists a few of the benefits again of joining a fire safe council. There's really no downside, and there are a tremendous number of opportunities, types of things that a fire safe council can take on. It really depends on volunteers and who turns up. As Piper likes to say, the world belongs to those who show up. So the people who are volunteering with the fire safe councils are the ones who are kind of determining its destiny. And I can also tell you that to a fire safe council, all 20 of them and the ones that haven't been formed yet, everybody, they can all use more help, more support, financial support, more hands on the ground. There's any kind of skill that you have would be of use to your fire safe council. So get involved. It's really rewarding and frustrating at times and amazing, and it feels really good to be doing something. We all worry about fire, I would assume at this point, and this is like taking that worry and putting it into action and making some good come out of it. So as a middle school artist Juan Alcantar says, if we all do our part, we won't fall apart, and we can all chip in and make this community safer and more fire adapted. And thanks for bearing with me a little past 7. There's a lot more involvement to be had. I'd love to chat with any of you or direct you to where we can plug you in. If you want to send me an email, all the contacts are listed here. Napa Firewise, as Joe pointed out, and Mike has a ton of information on it. We will be upgrading the website pretty soon, so stay tuned. It's going to look a little shinier, but there's a ton of information available to you there. You can browse for days. And if there's something that you're looking for that you're not finding, let me know and we'll find the information for you and put it on the website. And now I will stop talking. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, Sherry. So now everybody, we've got a bunch of questions that have been answered. I've been following along here in the Q&A. And so in that, and if you didn't get your question answered or you have another question, please feel free to stick around and ask away and we will address that. And if you have any questions, this recording is going to be posted on the napafirewise.org website, and the slide deck will be available. And we're also going to do a list of FAQs and answers will all be mailed out along with a link to the recording. So this will all go out probably within the next 2 days, I think, is when this will go out, so that you can have access to all these materials that we've shared. Let's see, Sherry, do we want to exit your screen and put us back on in case we have any questions? We may